And for me, the employee, the coachee, the follower, everything, that exercise alone, that 5 minutes or less, changed the world for me. I needed to exercise that level of confidence, not only with you, but in everything I do for my business. And I am here to tell you, I speak with so much authority and confidence now that it's so amazing how, like you said, it was 2/3, 3/4 of the way through, and everything changed in that moment.
Hey, it's Diane, and you just heard my client Jennifer Yates share the massive identity shift she experienced during our work together. It's not the only thing that changes when we decide to go from being successful in corporate to successfully self-employed, but I believe it is the moment that makes everything else possible. I call it the Boss Up Breakthrough, which also happens to be the name of my signature coaching framework. Please enjoy this client success story episode with Jennifer Yates. I'm just so delighted to reconnect with you and to take a little walk down memory lane and share our experience working together. So let's start from the beginning. That makes sense. How did you find me? And how did you decide to work with me?
Okay. Finding you was like a 3-part series in a drama. So I was listening to Rochelle Moulton's podcast. You were a guest. And I was thinking, who is this badass woman? I love her. Through listening to Rochelle's podcast, I learned that you have a podcast. So I immediately connected to your podcast. I think I reached out to you on LinkedIn, told you how much I loved your interview, how much I'm listening to your podcast. It spoke to me. And then I went to your website. That's the third thing, and booked a call, and we connected. So that's how I found you. It was kind of a little path of 3 stepping stones. And then when we booked our call, I decided, I kind of knew beforehand, I have got to have this woman in my life. She's going to help me. She's going to lead me in the direction I need to go. But then when we connected and spoke for that introductory call to get to know each other, I felt so seen and heard and understood. My brain was like scrambled eggs, and you made me feel like you were the right person to unscramble that mess and get me situated in a way I needed to. And we vibed, to be truthful. Like we kind of had a little,
little fangirl moment.
Yeah.
But see, I look for that, Jennifer. I look for that. Like I don't look for people to gush over me like you just did. It was fucking awesome. But what I do need is for people to be coachable, to know their strengths and their struggles, to be able to follow my lead, but not bend the knee. Like to be open to what I might share with them, but push back as needed. And we're going to get to like a really important turning point in our work together where that was one of your biggest breakthroughs. But there also has to be like a personality fit. It's not a sales call. It's really more like a first date. And I only work with people that I literally fall in love with them. I fall in love with their mission, their energy. I want to see their business succeed. I want to see them thrive beyond their wildest imaginations, because I get up in your biz shiz and I work very holistically. And if I'm not feeling it with you, I can't bring my best, and you certainly won't get the maximum benefit. So it was necessary that we felt like, well, this could really work. And I'm going to commit wholeheartedly to making sure it does. And we both did that, I think.
We did. And I could tell right from the get-go, too, because after that call, the follow-up emails, I had some questions. And you were very patient and respectful in answering all of my questions. And we interacted over email after that before I booked, the sessions. So it wasn't just the lead up to the call and then the actual first date, but kind of the little messaging afterwards. If we're gonna speak in that sphere, it really made me feel like you were the right person, because you weren't just seeing me and hearing me and understanding me on a call. It was even after that.
I'm so glad you're mentioning this, because it's not something that everyone notices. And I don't know that I've talked about with another client on one of these client success stories, but I'm a relationship person. One of the most disappointing things I have experienced when hiring other coaches and consultants is when I feel that for them, it's a transaction.
Ugh.
Like, we have a relationship. It may not be one that lasts the rest of our lives, and it's that way by design, but we need to develop enough of a relationship so there is trust, there is respect, there is safety, there is consent. And without all of those things, which I don't think happen automatically or instantaneously, which is why I welcome the back and forth emails, because I consider it a meaningful decision to invest your money, your time, and to open yourself up to my leadership. I don't take that lightly. I don't think it's the most important decision you're ever going to make, but I don't think it's insignificant either. And in order for me to really have an impact on you that is both significant and sustainable, we need to have something already going before the first call. And so I really appreciate that you noted that you responded to that, and that it had meaning for you. I think it's one of the many, many things that I can say as a former psychotherapist has influenced my work as a business strategist and coach, because I have relationships. That's what I do. It is through the vehicle of relationship that I am able to help people. It's different than the therapy relationship, but those foundational pieces are really, really necessary. And what's interesting to me, Jennifer, is that each of my clients is different, but there are certain common things. Like, some people love using Voxer between our calls, and we'll talk about that some more in a bit. Some people love the worksheets and love doing the deep dives and developing greater self-awareness and personal growth while they're building their business. Some people are like, do not show me a worksheet. I am not doing homework. And I like that I can customize what I do to what the person needs and wants and finds beneficial. You happen to love the worksheets. You are a worksheet person, and you're like, please give me more. But not everybody is.
A couple things. So first, another thing that really attracted me to you was your combination of former psychotherapist and business, I don't know, angel or whatever, because I needed, where I was in that moment when we first talked, I felt like I needed both. Someone who understands business, but also understands my hot, messy brain in the moment. Worksheets. I loved all of the tools, the worksheets, the homework, the tests you had me take, the Voxer. Why? Because I am a noodler. I can stand here confidently as all get out in a session with you and say something, whatever that is. But after the fact, I'm continuing to noodle and process on that. Or the opposite, you could pose a question to me and I was never on the debate team because I'm need to sit and think about that. That's a big question you're
Mm.
asking. So the worksheets, the Voxer, the homework, the tests, the self-reflection and self-analyses that I was able to do in working with you spoke to my kind of independent reflections, independent processing, noodling. Having to do those activities really allowed me to think about who I am as a human, who I am as a business person, where do I want to be for my clients, and what kind of business do I want to have.
Mm.
And I needed that. I knew I needed that because it was kind of practice for me before the performance.
This is so good. It's reminding me, Jennifer, when we first connected, I think it was even before the consultation. And you reached out to me on social media. You let me know that you had heard me on Rochelle's podcast, and your image. I don't know if you still have it, but your banner image or I don't know if it's called the header on LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
Part of the imagery there is like a tangle of like spaghetti or thread or yarn or wires or whatever, and then sort of the unraveling of that. And
Mm-hmm.
I knew right then and there, this is going to be someone who's a really good fit for me because she has big ideas. She's got a busy brain. She's a generative brain. And sometimes we generate so much that we overwhelm ourselves, we overcomplicate things, and then we completely shut down and don't know what to do next. This is so familiar to me because I do the same thing and most of my clients do as well. So it's like knowing that we're going to be able to pull apart the threads, to pull apart the wires, and to kind of sort them out and to see what you want to make of them. And frankly, which ones you're like, well, that was fun, but I'm not going to do this anymore. That's a very specific skill set and a very specific way of helping someone with their business. And I loved that I got probably more Voxer messages from you than not everybody uses Voxer the way you did. And I loved that over time we developed this cadence with Voxer. And if someone's listening and was like, why are they talking about this Voxer thing? Is that those really cool like boxer shorts for women? No, that's Voxer. And I recently purchased some and they are just as comfortable as you've heard. Voxer with a V is like a walkie-talkie app. And if you're a verbal processor like I am and like Jennifer is, it's a wonderful thing to have as part of your coaching engagement because the magic doesn't just happen during a coaching call. Oftentimes, what happens during the coaching call is some combination of teaching, some combination of working through a problem, talking about obstacles, generating options, some decision support.
Yeah.
After that meeting is over, that other person's brain goes to town, goes to work on all that transpired during that hour. And usually there is a need to have a thought partner to bounce back and forth. And you became really, really skilled at identifying at the beginning of the message, hey, Diane, guess who? It's the noodler. And I'm just going to like noodle. You don't need to respond. I just need to noodle. And I'm recording this on your Voxer because I want to hold myself accountable to having thought it through and communicated it. You do not need to respond. And then other times you sent a Voxer message because you had a question or you were doing a worksheet and you weren't sure, am I understanding this correctly? Is this what you want? Or what if I do that? But I think that's the beauty of Voxer is the asynchronous communication. And if you are a verbal processor and you really benefit from someone who is a thought partner for you, I love, love, love doing that kind of work. And you made really, really good use of that.
I sure did. I'd have to go back and look at the time of day that I sent the Voxers because I remember specifically so many times where I woke up and said, okay, I've had an overnight noodle or an overnight epiphany. I'd sleep on something, and first thing in the morning,
Boom.
Voxer you.
Yep.
On my dog walks. Oh,
Yes.
I saw this or that, and it reminded me, oh, I need to talk to Diane about this. I had a thought. And so I really did use that tool to process out loud, but that wasn't the only tool I used. Writing is one of I'm sure this is the same for many people. I love to write. It is how I process out, out loud, so to speak. But I also like to publish what I write. You mentioned LinkedIn. I do still have that banner. I am all over LinkedIn. I will have a thought and immediately have to create a post on LinkedIn. And we have talked oftentimes about my writing and, how impactful my writing is in reflecting the way I think. So there were plenty of opportunities, but there was another tool that really helped me. And it was the kind of I can't remember what it's called without opening my phone right now, but it's the meditation tool where you can record your own almost like gratitude or manifestation.
It's the affirmations app called Think Up.
Think Up.
Think Up.
So what I loved about that is I could record some of my own affirmations and then listen to them in the morning first thing while I'm out running errands. People thought I was insane because I had the windows down, talking to myself.
One way or another. You're talking to yourself on Voxer or you're talking to yourself on Think Up and listening to the affirmations. But it works.
It worked. It worked. It fed into my confidence building. It was exercising a certain muscle. So it was the amount of tools were like so impactful to me. The Clifton Strengths Finder, I had never taken that before. Did I already know the information? Mostly, but I was actually surprised at some of the strengths and the order in which those strengths showed up. So there were so many foundational tools, even coming through with, I'm gonna make you laugh because my values. I sent you a list of my values and there were like 8 or 9, and you were like, nope, you've got to whittle that down. So we whittled down my values, and I would say a theme between you and me in my coaching was the reminder, whittle it down, one lane, think of one thing, like even with the affirmations, 2 affirmations, like stop there.
Yeah.
Stop at 5 with the values. Stop on the Clifton Strength Finders with your top 5. It was, everything was coached to be, we don't need any more than that. And that spoke a lot to me because that's actually how I work too. I get feedback and information from all kinds of sources, and then I try to whittle it down to, the most important pieces of information.
I'm so glad you're remembering all these things because here's the thing, like I am able to customize my approach to each individual client. And you were really hungry for self-exploration. You were really hungry for development. You were really hungry for clarity and a better understanding and courage and confidence that you were shaping the right path for you. I have other clients who don't do any of that. They show up to the coaching calls, they get what they need from them, and they take action between one call and the next. Other people blow up my Voxer. Some people never use Voxer, but they really love the tools like the core values assessment, the strength finder assessment. Some people say, if you put a gun to my head or offered me $1 million, I am never going to do affirmations. Don't bring it up again. Hey, it's your life. It's your business. It's your fucking brain. So I'm going to make suggestions and I'm going to make recommendations based on what I hear you say you're struggling with. It's up to you to decide whether to use them or not. Some people want all the things, like the more the merrier. And other people would be like, my head would explode if I had to meet with you for all these and do all of that. Hell no. So I really like that different people work with me in different ways and that I can provide that flexibility and really meet people where they are, whether it's a lot of tools or not so many. You know, we've been talking a lot about like untangling things and simplifying things. Intentional constraint is one of the most important things I help my clients with, because you have a busy brain. You have lots of ideas. You are super creative. You are an ideator. You are generative. Like you just get an idea and next thing you know, you're off to the races and writing a 2,000 word blog post. So for you, the goal is not to step on the gas, or now that I have an electric vehicle, step on the pedal. It's that all the stuff that's like streaming out, how do we make it in a format that gets the best stuff, doesn't leave anything out, but makes it streamlined, systematized, and sustainable? Because otherwise, brains like ours put us at risk for burnout, put us at risk for disillusionment, put us at risk for overwhelm, shutdown, or at the very least, a roller coaster kind of business. So, no, you don't get to have 12 core values, you get 5. I don't need to hear your 34 Clifton strengths. I want your top 5. And the reason for that is that our short-term memory can only really hold on to 5 to 7 bits of information. So when an opportunity comes your way, someone says, oh, do you want to speak at my retreat? Or a potential client, someone tries to refer to you. You have to be able to make a decision quickly based on an algorithm that is aligned with your needs, your wishes, your wants, your preferences, your priorities, your goals, and your frickin' bandwidth. 5 values, 5 strengths. It's a screen door, Jennifer. It is a filter so that this opportunity that comes your way, if it's not in alignment with at least bare minimum 3 of your 5 strengths and 3 of your core values, it is a hard fucking no. It makes decision making so much easier.
Really, truly it does. And you know, you're right. I have a million ideas. I have a tangled mess inside my head, especially when I found you. And exercising that restraint and staying within certain parameters was so beneficial for me, because then we could move quickly to an answer on whatever question it was that was coming up. I was making decisions every 5 minutes and, you know, oh, let me run this way. Nope. Let me run this way. Nope. Let me run this way. And I'd get, you know, a couple steps into that decision and then realize I was going down the wrong path. So I needed to uncover, what in the hell is it that I should be doing with this business? And how does my professional and personal history speak to that? I was also having, besides that business existential crisis, I was kind of having a little bit of an identity and a definition crisis.
Mm-hmm.
Historically,
Mm-hmm.
I come from a place where I have really leaned into my ability to lead teams by human connection and really understanding the psychology of teams and building a team around a certain outcome. And my clients had tapped into me for high level project management, but I did not like those words. I felt like those words didn't quite represent who I am and the extremely high value I could bring to an organization, because I am not just project management, but like project strategy and execution, but also I just have a way of bringing people along, that change management piece and developing processes for people. So anyway, I'm going down a rabbit hole right now. I was having an identity crisis with getting into a box of project management when I felt like I could do so much more, which is why I had leaned into business operations. I was also feeling the physicality of my confusion. I was having pain in my bones. I was having muscle pain. I was having hip pain, lower back pain, neck pain. I was unable to sleep. I was having, I think when I came to you, I was having a like stomach ulcer symptoms and heartburn that would not go away. I was really stressed out because I was in this crisis of being, and I kept saying to myself, well, maybe I should just become a barista. I know how to brew coffee. And then all of that would go away.
That's a very tempting thought. And although this isn't something that most people feel comfortable sharing with others, you suffer from the curse of knowledge. You suffer from the curse of being gifted with so many abilities and interests. You have had like multiple careers and very well developed avocations. They go beyond hobbies. Like, you're curious, you're driven, and you're constantly evolving. And I think this idea that I need to do one thing, I need to find this one thing that's going to allow me to bring all of my gifts and talents and experiences and abilities to bear. And it's really a burden to have this multi-interest, multi-passionate, multi-potentialate, whether you want to call it gifted. It's like the more things you're able to do and enjoy doing, the harder it is to carve your path.
I thought I could figure this out for myself. And it's exactly what you said earlier. It actually made it harder.
Yeah, you can't figure it out for yourself because, first of all, we all have, no matter how smart we are, no matter how bright we are, and you are certainly both smart and bright, we all have biases and we have blind spots. And we're not able to see the forest through the trees because the forest is so vast that there's so many fucking trees. And I think what we should talk about at this point in our conversation is like, I think the moment that I would say was your boss up breakthrough, maybe about 2/3 of the way into our coaching agreement, where I was hearing you say different things that didn't necessarily contradict one another, but we needed some decisiveness. We needed some clarity. We needed some honing and refining. And I remember saying to you, what I hear you say is that you want to specialize in your consulting in the area of people and culture. And when I first said it, there was kind of like a little bit of a light bulb moment where it was like, that's it. And I wasn't entirely sure that that was it, but I was pulling apart the tangles. I was teasing apart the spaghetti. I was trying to untangle all the different attributes that you had that were still kind of congealed. And I said, so here's what I want you to do. I want you to do some research in this area. I want you to look in the type of companies that you would be interested in partnering with in the area of people and culture. I want you to think about, so I gave you some very specific guidance on how I wanted you to continue to shape and refine that. And what happened next was your breakthrough. And I think it was really, honestly, for me, in that moment, it was like you had finally liberated yourself from the thinking of an employee who is accustomed to following the leadership, who is accustomed to looking up the food chain, to getting permission, to getting guidance, to not necessarily, you're not deferential, but like to working within the structure that you are part of, but you are not at the top. It was in the moment that you gave me pushback on that I think you kind of liberated yourself from that employee mindset that frankly holds all of us back in the early years of being an entrepreneur, but we can't see it until we are free from it.
That's right. So for the listeners, just kind of to give background, I came to Diane with about 28 years in corporate. And I've had my business for a very short time, just like I have already talked about. So not only did I have 28 years in corporate of being an employee, I was a leader in many of my roles, but just like Diane said, I was following a structure and an outline of what we were supposed to do. Add on top of that, Diane, I don't even know if I told you this, but when I was young, I competed in gymnastics. So I was an athlete with coaches. Mm-hmm. I practiced with the track team to build my stamina. I was not running in track, but I practiced with them as a stamina builder. I am also a great coachee, as we've already talked about. Diane gives me homework, I'm going to do it. I love paperwork. I've been a student. The learner in me wanted to learn and follow those directions. I'm a little bit of a human dichotomy. I'm a rule follower and a direction follower, but I'm also a rebel. So it's kind of like all of those parts of my personality were playing into this. So what we were doing was we were exploring my what. What do I offer? Mm-hmm. And I think I even called it a hub and spoke situation where we I went down one path and then came back and went down your accordion thing. Mm-hmm. And everything that I spoke about, wrote about, voxered about was how what I do centers around humans and their strengths and expertise and that human connection. And the reason I center on that, because historically I've been a senior level project manager. So, everyone's talking about the certifications and the documentation and the letters after your name. I actually rebel against all of that in project management because I have known people who have all of those letters. They cannot project manage their way out of a paper bag. Why? Because they're going to create a document that no one reads. They've got the certification, but what they don't have is understanding people and understanding how to get people to work towards a vision or to follow along your leadership. And I'm sorry, but to do that, you have to understand the people and their psychologies. You have to roll up your sleeves and be in the trenches with them.
And build relationships like we talked about earlier.
And build relationships. I am a connector. I am going to connect people. I've connected you, Diane, to other people. So I am going to connect people all along the way and lean into building relationships with them, which is how I lead, how I understand people, how I see and hear people. I'm a pattern seer, just like you are. I see patterns across a business, across a project, across people and personalities, and I pick up on those nuances and those my intuition about what those patterns are telling me. So you were picking up on my pattern, people, culture, and you gave me that homework. You need to explore people and culture. And I did. And I think it was over a couple different sessions. I'd come back super excited. This is what I think we're onto something. But then I'd go to write about it.
You're such a good storyteller. I was there and you're still drawing me in.
Oh my goodness. Then
what happened? Yeah,
then what happened?
Some sound effects.
I know. I would go to write about it publicly and I would feel sick to my stomach. Not because I was having an imposter syndrome moment. I wasn't. There was something in my body telling me, okay, and you are going to remember this. There was something in my body telling me people and culture is a big box that I do not sit inside. I am not inside the people and culture box. Instead, I build a people and culture box to carry with me, a micro people and culture box that I build around my projects, around my processes, around my, the outcomes and the vision I need to bring people along with. And I carry that people and culture box with me. And that was the epiphany I had right before our conversation. So then,
it's not, let's just be really specific about this. So it's not this is where I'm going to intervene in an organization. This is how I'm going to intervene in an organization. This is not where I do it or what I do. It's the how. It is my unique abilities and focus and interests and my greatest value is the way I do it. I don't need to fit in the people and culture department. I bring a people-centric culture to everything I do, regardless of the company and regardless of what they're specifically hiring me for. It may sound like we're like doing a little bit of mind fucking with the words here, but it's that you really needed to feel 100% aligned with your path. And if it was even 5% off, over time, it would have taken you somewhere you didn't want to go.
I said, Diane, this is not it. And here's why. And you said, that makes sense. Let's go. Let's go down this other, this final path or revisit one we were pretty much leaning into anyway. And for me, the employee, the coachee, the follower, everything, that exercise alone, that 5 minutes or less changed the world for me.
Hmm.
I needed to exercise that level of confidence, not only with you, but in everything I do for my business. And I am here to tell you, I speak with so much authority and confidence now that it's so amazing how, like you said, it was 2/3, 3/4 of the way through,
Mm-hmm.
and everything changed in that moment.
It was a little bit
It
of an
was,
oh shit moment for me, I'll tell you, uh, because I knew
oh,
you.
you didn't expect it.
Well, the thing is that I didn't know what to expect because I felt like we had reached a point where it was like 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. It's like, it's that I sometimes think of it or describe it as like the eye exam when
Yes.
you've basically got your prescription dialed in and now they're just doing the fine tuning. And they're like, is it better now or now, now or now, now or now? And it's like tweak, 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 tweak. And it really felt like, okay, I'm not 100% sure that this is where we should be going. But based on everything I'm hearing her say, this is my intuitive hit. But we won't know for sure until she starts moving down that road. And when you came back and said, and you didn't avoid it, which I think is super important for people to hear, because sometimes people are like, nope, that's not it. Or they'll say during the call with their coach, okay, good. Okay, I'll do that. And then later on, they are procrastinating, resisting, avoiding. And it's like, I am not your parent. I am not your boss. I may be receiving some of the projections of your past history with authority figures
Mm,
because I'm someone that you're turning to for guidance and because you respect me. So naturally, I'm going to acquire some of those projections from past history with authority figures, bosses, parents, professors, whomever. And but it was in that moment where you are like, listen, I was willing to go down that road. I trusted that it was a worthwhile venture, but having done so, I'm thoroughly convinced that isn't it. And I want to tell you what is. And I don't know. I was like, oh wow, we don't have too many more sessions left. I hope that we're like, I hope this isn't like we're not just getting completely, the train jumping the track. But you were so certain and so passionate and maybe even a little bit scared because you didn't know how I would react. Like
I
I
didn't.
have had coaches that when I disagreed with them or challenged them or said with all due respect, I don't think this is the right approach, I got gaslit,
Mm,
I got bullied, I got rejected because coaches are human, therapists are human, bosses are
yeah.
human. So you didn't know what kind of reaction you were going to get from me, but you knew that you had to say what you had to say and you had to step into your truth. And I literally think of that as the moment that you planted your flag and made your claim on being an entrepreneur because I believe your earliest clients were the very companies that you had been employed by. And it's like they knew you, they had worked with you, you had worked for them. And it's like, okay, now you're self employed, but you're still kind of in the nest. You're still
Mm,
kind of like, you haven't really quite left your parents' home yet. Maybe you're living in the apartment they built for you over the garage, but you're still kind of there. Now you're talking about moving out into a new area and selling to people who don't know you by history, who are being convinced that you're the person they need to hire just based on the strength of what you bring right now without past associations. And I think it was so important and necessary for you to have that moment and to have it received the way I did. Like I'm not tooting my own horn here. I just felt like she's so certain. I have no reason to challenge this. Let's literally do what I call a stop, drop, and roll. Let's just stop what we've been talking about, what we've been focusing on, what we've been planning. let's just drop all the sunk cost fallacy, like whatever. And let's roll in this new direction because you took control of your destiny in that moment. And I think maybe it sounds a little woo-woo. Maybe it sounds like, okay, great, she had an epiphany. But I honestly do not believe that anyone can be self-employed in a profitable and sustainable way unless they make that shift in their identity and are willing to really stake a claim on their own authority and make a decision with certainty. This is what I'm going to do. And considering that you came to me feeling somewhat confused and you were kind of in your own clusterfuck of, there's all these things I could do. Like, which one do I pick? And then it was like, I'm planting my flag. I am going to name it and claim it. And I'm just going to march forward from here without doubt. And that's exactly what happened.
I have been so confident ever since that I have had friends comment, oh my gosh, I've seen you grow so much just in, this period of time. I've heard the way you speak from fellow connections. I hear the way you speak about your business. I hear the way you speak about who you serve. And, not to mention, we also talked about the fact that I am a service-based business for other businesses. So I'm B2B service-based. That means I am delivering a concierge level experience to powerful businesses. That also puts me in a oh my goodness, sometimes role. But no, I've kept that Wonder Woman pose on. I've kept my cape on. I'm flying ever since. And that meeting that we had is now several months ago. And I have been able to sustain and maintain that confidence level and practice that muscle building exercise, which, it is cumulative. So it's building and building and building and layering on top of layering. And I just feel so good. So thank you.
And I think confidence is great. It might even be necessary, but it's not enough if it isn't tangible. If you can't say, and because of that confidence, I'm now able to do this. And because of that confidence, I'm now able to do that. And it's not in my mind, it's in the world. Other people can see it. Other people are noticing it. Other people are commenting on it. I think that's really, really crucial because a lot of people talk about confidence like it's the goal, like it's a reward. If you do everything great, if you do everything well, you get confidence. Confidence is a habit and a decision, but without execution and implementation and forward momentum, it's really just a feel good. So for you to be able to share that, even since our meetings have come to an end and we've stayed in contact, but you're continuing on that trajectory, to me, that is the best reward. Absolutely chef's kiss.
It really is. For me too.
Hey, it's Diane with a quick follow-up to this client success story interview. It's been a couple of months since Jennifer and I recorded it, and I just got a Voxer message from her letting me know she has submitted a contract proposal to a brand new client for $300,000. Now, when she hired me, her biggest proposal to date was well under $100K. If you are a consultant and are inspired by Jennifer's story, we should talk. There's a link in the show notes to make it happen.